Hello, welcome to ZIM Capture. I'm inventor Dan Zen. And ZIM at zimjs.com is an open source framework to make interactive media on the HTML canvas using JavaScript and Create.js. In previous captures, we were adding droids to a container. In this capture, what we're going to do is add an orb, and we'll have the orb bounce around, and any of the droids that it hits, we will remove the droid. Yeah, that sounds fun. So that means they will have what's called a ZIM ticker that runs all the time, and in that we'll animate the orb, and we'll also do a hit test. So let's go take a look at some code. Here we have the droids container, and we've added that to the stage, and in a loop we've looped 50 times to make 50 droids. There's a droid, and we're adding the droid to droids. And let's see what that looks like. We run it in a browser. Ah, the droids have arrived. There they are. So we want an orb in here bouncing around. Let's make an orb then. Var orb is equal to a new zim.orb. Okay, I'm teasing. I don't have an orb, unfortunately. New zim.circle. And we will make that circle have a radius of 30 and a color of frame dot yellow. Yellow orb. Sounds familiar. And how about we put a stroke on it too? So the stroke color of frame dot orange. And these are just properties on the frame object that give us Zim colors. You could use any color like quote red, etc. And we'll give that a stroke size of 5. And then center the orb dot center on the stage like so, and let's take a look. Browser, did I close that? I guess I must have. And there we go, we have an orb on the stage. Ooh, nice, huh? And we'll make this bounce around, and as it bounces around any of these droids it hits, we will remove the droid. All right, well, let's just talk about HitTest to start. And the easiest way, rather than do it while it's all moving, is probably let's just drag the orb drag, and that gives us a bit better control. We can talk about HitTests. And we've got a lot of droids, so we'll just reduce that number by saying, by taking off the loop, and now we have a single droid stored in var droid. So we save that up and refresh here. And there's that single droid, and it pops around and has a random color and shape and so forth. Let's get a nice one. That's small, that's big, that's way off to the side. Come on. Yeah, big enough. Okay, I guess that's all right. So if we pick this thing up, we've got different types of hit tests. Probably the most basic one is hit test bounds. Are the bounds of this orb hitting the bounds of that? So as I bring this over, and the bounds look like a rectangle. Shall we take a look at the bounds? The bounds of the droid.outline. It's a Zim function that will show us the bounds and registration points and a few other things. And same with orb, orb.outline. And save that and refresh. There are the bounds. Now an issue with the bounds is you can see that if I were to pick this up, now when I pick this up it will escape its bounds because the bounds is a snapshot in time. But if I pick this up, that would be the bounds are hitting, and yet you can see that the orb is not really hitting the droid. So it's a quick test because it's checking the bounds, but it's not terribly accurate. Now there's a couple other ones. There's hit test point. So we could check to see if any point is hitting the shape of this circle. So if it were the point at the tip of the triangle, now that would be hitting. And now it wouldn't be. Now it would be hitting. So that's kind of cool. There's also a hit test reg, and that checks to see, but the problem with that hit test point, if we were testing only the tip of the triangle there, then that would not be hitting. Sort of similarly, we've got a hit test reg as well, which is the point of the registration point. And so this would not be hitting, not hitting. That would be hitting because the shape of this circle is hitting the registration point. Yet you can see that it wouldn't be hitting here, but it actually is hitting. So that's probably not the best. So then we turn to the more specific shape things. There's a HitTest rect. And what that could do is we could find out, we'll switch it, and find out if the shape of this circle is hitting the rectangle that goes around this triangle. So that, that wouldn't be hitting. That's good. At least that's better than HitTest bounds. This wouldn't be hitting. That would be hitting because the shape of this circle is indeed hitting the rectangle. But unfortunately, the shape of this circle is hitting this rectangle, so that would still be hitting. That's not so good. All right, now last one. Well, there's also a HitTest grid, but that's a really cool one for a grid, but this isn't, we don't have a grid of things exactly. So the last one that we want to talk about is a HitTest circle. Ooh, and that sounds promising, because what we can do is ask, is the shape of this droid hitting the circle of this circle? What that does is it just takes a look at the bounding box and draws a circle within the bounding box with points. So it'll check a point here, 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 and here, as well as points at 45 degrees, as well as a point in the middle. That's by default. So it checks, is the shape hitting any one of those points? Now you can kind of sneak a little corner of that shape in between our points, and if that's really important to you, you can increase the number of points. But that's where we're at. But for the most part, just the default HitTest circle would be fine in this case, I'm sure. Now we've improved the speed of the HitTest circle in the latest version of ZIM 4.4, so that what we do first is we just check the bounds first, and if the bounds aren't hitting, then we don't bother doing the HitTest circle, because there's actually a fair amount of overhead in checking to see if a shape is hitting 9 points. And when we're doing that on 50 droids, that's whatever, 450 hit tests on shapes, and we're doing that 60 times per second. So that's bog territory. But now it doesn't bog, because we check the nice fast mathematical bounds first, and if it's within here, then we start to check the shapes, and that's improved performance. Okay, let's see. To be able to do a hit test, we have to decide when to do the hit test. We can't just do it once at the beginning, because we're then moving the thing. So if we were dragging, we would do the hit test in a press move. So as I press down and move, we get an event that is constantly firing, and we can check the hit test circle in that. However, in this example, we're going to make the orb bounce around like so. So in other words, we constantly need to be checking to see if it's hitting any one of these droids. Now we're going to do our animation in what's called a ticker. A ticker runs 60 frames per second. So let's see a ticker, and then we'll not only do the animation in that ticker, but we'll also do the hit test in that ticker. All right, let's go in and see a ticker. I'll get rid of the outlines, and make a ticker here. Now the ZIM ticker piggybacks on the Create.js ticker, which piggybacks on this thing called a request animation frame, which is very similar to what's called a set interval. If you've done set intervals before, it's something that just runs in a certain interval, and in this case, the request animation frame uses the fastest interval possible. And the Create.js ticker adds a sort of more of a frames per second on that, so we can adjust the frames per second. And the ZIM ticker adds a few features that we'll discuss as we go along here. So to be able to use the ZIM ticker, we use the ZIM ticker class directly, ZIM ticker.add, and we can add a function in here, and this function will be done every time the ticker ticks, in a sense. We also have to pass a second parameter as to which stage we will be updating. Now that's one thing about a ZIM ticker, is when we add a function to the ticker queue, we will automatically update the stage after that function. And indeed, it's a queue of functions, so the neat thing about it is it will only ever do one update at the end of the queue. So we can add any number of functions here, but we know we're only going to get one update at the end, and that adds some efficiencies there. We don't have to worry so much about adding tickers and removing tickers and stuff like that. handles it. And by the way, ZIM animate and ZIM move also use that ticker and a few other things, and yet we'll only ever get one stage.update, which will save batteries and processing power in the end. So there's a couple other methods that we can use as well. There's an always method. There's ways that there's a ZIM optimized thing. So there's more about tickers for advanced things. You can have a read about them in the documentation. But here we are using the static method called add, just like the math class, for instance, math.random, for instance. Okay, so in here, let's just zog that we're ticking and see if it is working. Okay, there we go. It's just thrown off by zogging tit, but we're zogging ticking. Yes, indeed. And we save that, and we check it out in a browser. Well, look at F12. Ticking, ticking, ticking. Look at it go. Woo, whipping up there. So that's going 60 times per second on desktop, and it's going 30 times per second on mobile. All right, now one thing about a ticker and request animation frame is that it will not run if the window's not showing. So if your app is reduced, then it won't be wasting batteries in behind there, whereas the set interval did waste those batteries. So that's a good and a big difference between a set interval and animating in a set interval and animating in a ticker. All right, then, what do we want to do in here? Well, we want to check to see if our orb is hitting the droid that we have. So if the shape of the droid, so if droid.HitTest circle orb, like that, then we will, let's just zog hitting for now. Hitting. Okay, and let's take a look here. So we refresh, and that means we need to see the console again. So F12. Ooh, that's small. Let's make that a little bit bigger so you can see what's going on. So I pick that up, and as I come across here, it's not hitting. Bing, hitting. So as soon as it touches, bing, hitting. Can you see the numbers go up there? Hitting. Like that. Now, can you see that? So not hitting in there, but as soon as that touches, hitting. That's great. Now let's just try the rect. We'll drop back to the hit test. Not rect, bounds. And save that. And now this tests to see if the two bounds are hitting. And as we approach here, look, it's hitting already. The rectangle around here is hitting the rectangle around there. Okay, so that would be fine if we're testing two rectangles. So you would use HitTest bounds if you're checking two rectangular shapes hitting. You would use HitTest rectangle if one of the shapes is a rectangle, rectangular, and the other shape is some weird shape. You would use HitTest circle if one of the shapes is circular and the other shape is some weird shape. And you would use HitTest points or HitTest reg if if you want to hit a specific point or something, like say the mouse point. But for that, we usually use a mouse over. Okay, so that's great. It's hitting. Now, how do we test if it's hitting all of the droids? Well, or any of the droids. I guess that would be. So first of all, let's see if we can remove it. So that would be droids dot remove child, and in round brackets, droid, like that. Okay. Now, once we remove it, it shouldn't hit anymore. So let's just keep that zog hitting in here just in case, and so we can check to see if it still thinks it's hitting or not. So we save that. We refresh here. And as I approach, boom, one hitting, and then it's no longer hitting. So we're okay. Alrighty. And what next? Ah, yes. How do we test to see if we're hitting any of the droids? So we'll just remove that and bring back all of our droids. Now to do that, we can loop through all of the children in the container. So we need to loop through each droid and check to see if that droid is hitting. That's how it's done. So that we can do with a traditional loop, or we can do it with a ZIM loop. And as you'll see, that's quite straightforward. With the ZIM loop, we just go droids, comma, call this function. So what this is saying is that we're looping through the droids container. And when we do, we receive back a droid. So it will do this function for each droid in there. And for each droid in there, it gets passed the droid child. The droid child. See up here, this is a local variable called droid sitting within this function now. So plus that would loop and be finished. So we're not overwriting a droid variable or anything like that. Plus this droid parameter is our own droid. So we pick that up here and paste in there. Our own droid, I mean within this function. This droid that's our own, only within this function here. So now we're testing each droid. Wasn't that easy? Zim.loop through the droids. We call the function and does that each time. And we get passed a droid each time. We also get passed an index and a few other things. So read about ZIM loop, and we did what is on ZIM loop as well. Okay, let's check. Don't bother zogging, we'll just remove them. So we save that and refresh here. There they are. And as I pull this through, boop, gone, boop, gone. It's actually going a bit. It's sort of hitting not close enough. I wonder why. Well, maybe it's okay. No. Seems like the small ones are getting hit too quickly, doesn't it? Like, you're still doing, oh, got the hit test bounds. Okay, no, silly me. We left the hit test bounds in. Hit test circle. There we go. I was sad. I was going, what's going on? Okay, so now we're dragging this through, and there, that's a much better hit test. Okay, so cool, huh? Gandhi. Okay, so next then we're removing these droids as we're dragging, but now we want to take a look at how we can animate inside of this ticker, and that's fun to do. So we can say something like orb.x plus equals 3. Alrighty. So we save that up, and let's take a look. Oh, we'll take off the drag. And refresh this. There it goes. Oh, that's a shame. It didn't really have much to delete there, did it? There, it hit a couple this time. Okay, and that's not what we're wanting though. We don't want it just to go off the stage to the right. So that means we need to do a little bit more here. Now, this ZIM capture isn't really about animating like this. It's more like how we got the ticker on there to do things, and about hit tests. So there we are looping through and doing hit tests, and how to loop through a container. That is terribly important. Quite often, I would say, about at least a quarter of the things I make, maybe a third of the things I make, I'm looping through a container of some sort, maybe even half. Okay. So, but we will continue on. Tell you what, I won't tell you much about it because this has gone on a little long. I'll just do it. So, var speed, I'll mumble as I go, is equal to, say, 3. Var dir x is equal to 1. Var dir y is equal to 1. just some setup there. We'll plus equal the speed times the dir x, and then we'll do the same thing, something similar for the y. That will move it around, but now we have to bounce off walls, so that looks like if orb dot x is greater than the stage width minus, that's 30, so we'll put that up in a variable here, var r is equal to 30, that's the radius, r. So stage width minus r, or orb dot x is less than r, then we will want to say dir x times equals minus 1. So we'll switch the direction on that and copy it, paste, and that is an x, and that is an x. Those should be y, and this is a height, and that is a big Y. And we save that up, and let's take a look. We refresh here. Boom. Oh, boingada, boingada, boingada. Boom, 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 boom. Very nice indeed. Boom, boom, boom. I wonder if it would get all of them as it bounces around there. Pump, pa-tum, pump. Yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good. Oh, here we go. Come on, get those two. Oh, I missed that one. Ah, well, we could be here. I'm not sure if we'd be here for quite some time. That's cool, though. All right, so in summary, what have we got? We made an orb. Great. We made a ticker, and we animated the orb. It made it bounce around. In a loop, we checked all of the children of droids, and we got a droid each time, and we checked to see if that droid was HitTest circling the orb, which has a circular shape. And if so, we removed that droid. Excellent. We saw the ticker also. You pass in a second parameter of stage, and I mentioned to you that there's more things that we can do with a ticker. So have a look at the documentation on that at ZIM docs. I'm inventor Dan Zen. This has been a ZIM capture, zimjs.com. Have a great day.